Welcome to Movie Recaps Corner. Today I will show you a 2002 horror and war movie titled Death Watch. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. This is a thriller war movie with a lot of suspense. From the opening scene, we can see a company of British soldiers take cover from the enemy, the German soldiers, behind a wall. It is a bitter feeling because it is clear that the opposing party is more armed than the British. The leader, Tate, asks them to gear up and climb over the wall to fight. Every soldier is seen holding something dear to them. Some pull out objects, others pull out pictures of loved ones. One particular soldier stands out by his fear and body trembling. He was known as Shakespeare. Before they climb over to fight, Shakespeare gets cold feet and refuses to join the war. However, Tate pulls a scared Shakespeare across the wall to fight, but an explosion separates them. Tate gets caught in barbed wire, and Shakespeare is not willing to rescue him, so he leaves. The next morning, the survivors find themselves with their masks on, slowly advancing through a foggy area, which they fear to be poison gas, as they carry an injured soldier on a wooden stretcher. As they pass it, the company of British soldiers comes across a German base, where they find some terrified German soldiers. Private Quinn, a British soldier who is consumed in rage, shoots the first and attempts to shoot the second, but is stopped by his comrade, Private McNess, making the Germans stumble down the trench. The British soldiers feel proud, as they believe that they have subdued the enemy and possessed their space. They decide to do a round check, but discover rotten bodies, which could imply something terrible has gone wrong. Shakespeare's character is seen as one who's feeble, and this is confirmed when he is forced to tell his real age of 16 years old. He walked in fear at all times, and did not like the measures taken to execute the enemy. While doing rounds and checking the newly acquired space, they hear detonating charges to close off some passages which sound like a demon-like growl, but they pay no attention and fail to notice a lot of blood pouring from a part of the wall. The next scene shows the men still going through the area to find anything to leave the base. Luckily for Shakespeare, he is finally able to get contact from the outside world through the radio they had been trying to access. He runs to give his boss, Captain Bradford, who desperately grabs the walkie-talkie and communicates how soon they need help. Later, while everyone is trying to do their bit, Private Hawkstone decides to explore the land and is called away from his men. But as he turns, he notices a body covered in mud and leans closely to see it alive. It was the second German who had tried to get away but was shot. Out of fear, Hawkstone calls for help from his guys, but they can't hear, so the German takes advantage and jumps at him with a medal, and Hawkstone is forced to shoot him. It becomes scary when the German doesn't die, despite the bullet in him. They end up wrestling in the mud until other soldiers come, and Private Sterinsky shoots him. He falls to his knees, and Quinn finishes him with a shot to the head. Later that night, they take one of the Germans who they had captured down an alley, but he refuses to go into a particular room. But he has no choice as he is forced in. The next scene shows one of the soldiers away from the rest, drinking while masturbating when he hears a sound. He pulls out his gun and follows the sound, but is caught in a barbed wire where he dies, and his fellow soldiers find him. This triggers the soldiers because the scary trenches begin to pressure them into believing something is wrong. One of them, Shavas, is dying slowly from a bad back injury, and their only way to call for help, a radio, stops working after just one message. They're all getting angrier, especially when another soldier is found mysteriously dead. The movie gets scary when sounds come in the form of blood attacks on the soldiers when he is away from the others, but fortunately, he doesn't die. However, he began to lose his mind. Everyone starts blaming the German prisoner, yet Charlie can translate the prisoner's encrypted language, warning them that something evil is in the trenches, and they'll start turning on each other. Their leader, Captain Jennings, gets scared by strange sounds and accidentally shoots one of his men, thinking he's the enemy, which relieves him of his duties. But despite the chaos, Sergeant Tate stays strong, refusing to leave their post in the trenches, believing they were all here on duty. McNess runs off and gets shot by Private Bradford. Corporal Fairweather tries to save him, but McNess is pulled underground by a weird mud pile. As Bradford becomes convinced he's cursed, he asks Charlie to end his life, but Charlie refuses. Bradford flees. The next morning, Quinn, who is frustrated, abuses Friedrich, daring any Germans to rescue him. It is a gory sight that was aimed at scaring off the remaining German, whom he perceived to be the curse of the strange happenings. Due to the strange happenings, Jennings orders a company inspection and removes Tate when he refuses. Shakespeare and Fairweather reluctantly comply to protect Tate from his wrath or any form of standoff. Jennings is distracted by Friedrich's screams and confronts Quinn, who attacks him. Tate tries to intervene, but is killed by Quinn. Shakespeare holds Quinn at gunpoint, but barbed wire suddenly traps Quinn, piercing through his body and moving swiftly, leading Shakespeare to shoot him to end his suffering. Charlie frees Friedrich and arms him before finding Shavas, who's been eaten by rats. Charlie also ends his suffering. He then encounters Bradford, who's been killed by Fairweather. Charlie eventually gives in and fulfills Bradford's request by ending his life. As the trench collapses, Charlie finds himself in a dark cave with a group of bodies that appear to be alive. While trying to escape to the surface, we see the ground trying to swallow him, but luckily for him, he makes it up. Charlie screams Friedrich's name and reminds him of not being a part of his abuse. He also reminds him of his role in his release, so Friedrich lets him go. Charlie leaves, disappearing into the mist to find safety. The movie ends in a thriller where some British soldiers mistake Friedrich for an enemy. His back is to them as they point arms at him, but Friedrich calmly faces them with a devilish look, knowing fully well he had an upper hand in the trenches. In summary, the movie shows the effect of war on humanity. This is shown in the malicious attacks on the German soldiers by the British soldiers. The movie also teaches us to be calm. It's not everything that requires energy or confrontation. Sometimes you need to pause and observe before taking action because you don't know who is who. Also, an enemy today is a potential help. This is seen in Friedrich's and Shakespeare's relationships. Finally, always be kind to people. Shakespeare was released because he had been kind to the Germans, despite his comrades' abuse. He didn't let it influence him. The end. Join our community. Subscribe for in-depth reviews and expert analysis on more videos like this. Click on the bell icon so you never miss out on our movie talks. Thanks for watching.